Wow, What a Week presents Fresh Money. Proudly brought to you by Africanbank.
Audacity to believe.
In a country filled with dreams, ambition, and boundless potential. Let me ask you this. What if there was a bank that challenged the status quo? A bank that defied all odds? A bank that believed in the audacity of its people? Forget advertising, because this is not just banking speak. This is real life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nomzama Mbata.
I'm here because I know the distance between where you are and where you want to be. This little gap right here is called audacity. But you know what else is real? The rising cost of food, struggling to pay rent, or struggling to finance your business. When life is real, you need more than a bank. Which is why Africanbank is scaling to provide fully fledged banking to back you. Thank you. Africanbank now offers business and commercial banking, personal banking, and the Audacious Rewards program that rewards you for everyday banking. You see, audacity is more than just a fancy word. Be bold. Africanbank will back you. Because when you grow, we grow. So, choose a bank that believes in you to advance your life. Africanbank, audacity to believe.
Welcome to Fresh Money, brought to you by Africanbank, audacity to believe. Our guest today has got 20 years of marketing experience. Yeah, he's a dope dude. He's a cool dude. I've done a TV show with him. We've traveled to Reunion Island. I'm just trying to show you that there's money in banking days.
Back when we're still young.
Absolutely. Please make some noise for Sbusiso Kumalo. He's the Group Chief Marketing, is it manager or officer? Officer at Africanbank.
Yeah.
Sbu, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It's good to see you, brother.
Long time, man.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But your journey, your journey is almost parallel with South Africa's journey. Take us briefly through your journey.
Yeah. So I've been at Africanbank now, I think it will be 3 years in August.
Yeah.
It's been an awesome ride.
Sure.
Lots of challenges, lots of changes. We are not the business we were. And at the same time, there's a lot of things that are also happening externally.
Yes, sir.
But my journey in marketing, I'm from Cape Town. I've worked for SA Breweries. I've worked for the other bank in Stellenbosch.
Yes, sir.
I think that's where I cut my teeth into financial services.
Sure,
I was there for quite some time. I think in total, probably about 14 years or so.
Would you say being in that environment in Stellenbosch was a better route for you career-wise than had you been anywhere else?
I think it was I appreciate the opportunity of being there because I learned so much.
Sure.
Because I do not have any other benchmarks, I wouldn't know whether it was better. But if I had to do it again, I would.
Sure.
I can't discount, the growth. I can't discount the exposure. I can't discount the thinking. I can't discount, the work ethic and just the way of doing things. So for me, it really has shaped a lot of what I do today. And my grandmother's wisdom, eat the meat, spit the bones. So there's certain things that I don't take with me, but there's also quite a number of nuggets that really have been instrumental in just, what I learned, what I saw, and how to do things. Yeah.
Would you say corporate culture is corporate culture, banking culture is banking culture, or do you have to make shifts when you move?
I think corporate culture is corporate culture. So whilst, traditional, so if you look at traditional banks, they almost like have a way of, and it's very rooted in the old, and it's very marble, and it's very kind of like,
I'll say it for you.
Grand.
It's very white male.
Yeah, well, yes. So now it has changed. I mean, we don't see ourselves necessarily as a bank. We're retailers, right? So the way we interact with the customers, the way we want to relate to the customers, the way we want to communicate and market to the customers certainly has changed. And the disruption of this industry really won't come from this industry. It will come from outside of this industry. So we need to be relatable. Because no one really wakes up and say, I'm thinking of a bank and it's a grudge purchase. If you never had to deal with a bank, you probably wouldn't.
The less people hear from the bank, the better.
The better, generally. And to prove that, many people don't even look at the bank statements. So you could go for months without even knowing. Exactly.
Guilty.
So how do you know that someone is not taking 20 Rand off your account every single month, or 99 Rand off your account?
You can stop at the 99.
Or $1,000.
You're gonna stop.
If you have $1 billion Rand, then what's $100? But and I think it's got to do with compounded is this love-hate relationship we find ourselves having with money. Because it's a source of joy, but it's also a source of stress, because we never seem to have enough. And there always seems to be so many people that need it, I saw a meme the other day that says someone being upset over your money, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you, and that's just, I guess, the culture and the way of life.
Would you say the way your average black person on the continent or even in South Africa relates to and with money might also be rooted in the fact that for a lot of kids, they never had it? You saw grandma take 1 Rand and stretch it. You saw food on the table, but you look back and you wonder, how did she do it? Certainly, exposure to it at an early stage really plays a huge role. If I look at my kids, I made sure that they had bank accounts from a very early age. And I gave them a monthly allowance that were, related to what grade you're in. So in grade 1, it's $100 a month, because those birthday parties they go to, they add up. Absolutely.
But at the time that they can, understand reading, getting a bank statement, budgeting, deciding what to purchase, even when it comes to birthday gifts for their friends. Using the card, using the ATM.
Using their own money.
Using their own money.
Now they have to think.
The first time I made my son use his own money was when I got tired of him losing his school uniform. So I said, okay, well, on the weekend, no, don't worry. We're going to go buy a replacement blazer. And he was like, okay, cool. Okay, so I'm not in trouble. And then I said, no, bring your bank card with you. So I didn't know what was happening until he had to go withdraw money and go buy the uniform. And that was the last time he lost school uniform.
It's always a lesson learned.
So it was a lesson learned from him. So the attitude to money is a bit different. When you're exposed to money, doesn't matter how much, but at a very early age. And I honestly think our government should do a lot to try make the education system, from an early age. I know that in high school, as part of life skills, they do some modules that have got to do with financing. But there's no reason why you can't start at early childhood in grade 1, grade R. Start teaching kids about money.
I've actually been arguing that if project management was compulsory from grade 1, if money literacy was compulsory from grade 1, if taxation was compulsory, because your life is a project. Your school projects are projects. But we don't teach kids to manage projects. It doesn't make sense. To manage money. And then when they're the same kids, these kids become adults who don't pay tax. Because we didn't teach them about it.
And they don't see the value, to say, this is just money that's just going. So we need to kind of like bring that awareness earlier on and actually teach it and teach it in school. And I think we'll have, the worst is to finish school, get your degree, start working. And that's the very first time you understand, credit. I always used to say credit is like chocolate cake. You have one slice, it's delight.
Exactly.
You have the whole cake, you're in trouble. So is the problem the credit, or is the problem the person consuming it?
You use cake, I use tequila.
Tequila,
One is
same
good,
thing.
but eventually
it catches up with you. And unfortunately, a lot of people get introduced to some of these concepts, which are necessary. You can never improve your life. You can never leverage your life if you don't have access to credit.
Absolutely.
It will just slow down the process of you moving and advancing yourself. So it really is a tool. Governments uses it. Businesses use it, and as an individual, you can also use it responsibly.
People who can afford to buy things cash use it.
Yes, actually.
That's how much of an enabler it is.
Exactly.
Like, why should I blow my own money when I can blow yours?
When I can use someone else's money. But we need to expose people to the principles.
Sure.
Because if you don't get the principles,
you're in debt for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Is your obsession with people need to be taught, people need to learn, one of the reasons you're also published?
Yeah. So actually, I recall I was doing my MBA, I think in 2012.
Yeah.
When did Marikana happen? It was 2012, right?
Yeah, Marikana is about 12, 13 years ago. Yeah, about 2012.
2012, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
2011, 2012. So we're sitting in class and this thing is happening and we're like, wow. And the irony of it is that most of the miners, we learned that I think at that time they were earning like 12 and a half a month salary. And, yes, it's hard work. You're like 10 kilometers and underground and the works. But I think the average salary in the country is way below that.
It's way below
So the question is, how can you live like that?
Yeah.
And yet you earn 12 and a half?
Yeah.
And obviously you peel the onion, they were over indebted and all sorts of other things. So I got obsessed with this idea of what are the drivers of people getting into debt. And I went about researching this. Because obviously when you're doing an MBA, you kind of like get fascinated about life. You have all these questions, all these things, all these theories. And so I spent, I think, about 2 years just researching the topic. And I came up with, these drivers that cause people to get into financial constraints. But I didn't want to be this crazy guy who's kind of like evangelizing something, and people don't understand because, it's kind of like weirdo stuff,
Yeah, it feels like I'm on a soapbox.
Exactly. People will look at you funny when you're So I had this knowledge, and a friend of mine and a colleague said, why don't you turn it into a book? So then I wrote a book called Mind Your Means.
Okay.
And the book really, I tried to reconstruct the content into palatable information so that it's a pocket book, it's a guide. You can take notes and you could learn about how to, because ultimately what we want to do as human beings is we just want to advance ourselves. So everything that we do is because there's a gap between where we are and where we want to go. Absolutely. And we're looking for something to just advance us. So people get indebted to take their kids to school, to give themselves shelter, we often think that a lot of it's consumption, but it really barely is about bread and milk.
It's survival.
It's about, real stuff. So those are still drivers, whether they get into trouble and can't pay it or not, but what was the actual driver? So it was about seeking to find, certain principles and behaviors that I can be able to share that will enable someone to make better life decisions. And I'll give you one example. And I know I made this mistake. So a lot of the times, we get married, but never really sit down and say, how many kids do you want to have? Right. We buy a house and never really think about the school we want to send our kids to. So you find that you live here, you work there, and your kids go to school there. We don't understand the psychological impact, both on yourself and your kids, to be like, schooling outside of your neighborhood.
Your lives become commutes.
It becomes commutes. So you're stressed in the morning because you're rushing your kids because you need to leave by 7 o'clock because 7:30 they need to be in school. But then you need to be at the office. So it's like if you could just say, this is how I want to structure my life.
Yes.
You probably could save yourself money, but you could also create a better quality of life. And a second example is just things like, you're purchasing a bed. So are you going to go for a cheap bed that you can that you have to change, replace after 5 years, or are you looking at a 30-year period? Because if you spend the money and know that I don't have to worry about this for 30 years,
it becomes worth it.
It becomes worth it. So I think at the end of that book, they're like life decisions that have such a huge bearing on how a lot of things work out, that I was just saying, just think about these.
And how we're not intentional about a lot of things that impact us long term.
Yes.
We almost just living day to day, hand to mouth. I'll deal with it when I get there.
Fresh, we don't have a 200-year plan. We don't even have a 10-year plan. We say, yes, we want to leave a legacy.
Sure.
We want to do this.
But we don't know what that legacy looks like.
But you just don't put it on paper. You don't say, hey, for the next 200 years, this is what I see. And I want my kids and whoever comes after to take over and at least have a plan. They can modify it. They can tweak it. But let's just start somewhere.
In fact, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and happens to be a Caucasian male, and he was telling me that his will has taken into account that he's got daughters, and if they have any of the properties as an inheritance, then that property can't be a part of where she's married into, because this property must live within the line of the family. But we never think about things like that. Exactly. So if she gets married, her husband can't have his hands in their property. But we never think that far.
Yeah, because these are things that you need to think about and you need to exclude. But it goes back to our earlier conversation, right? It's knowledge and it's exposure. So what have your parents passed down on to you, and what are you going to pass on? But now we've got access to technology. Now we've got access to a lot of things, and we just need to actually be pedantic about it.
Absolutely. We're going to move on. So we are in the Dr. Samuel Musiwenyane building.
Yes.
Who on earth is the good doctor? And why should we care?
It's one of those stories that the minute you hear about it, you immediately fall in love with it.
Sure.
You fall in love with the characters. It's such a rich story of how a group of men and women defied the odds that you and I cannot even imagine. When I first learned of the story, I just could not conceptualize the idea in my brain couldn't create a picture that in a world where you're not able to move without freely.
Sure.
In a world where you've got no rights to do anything. The quality of your education is just, terrible. Then you've got a couple of, black dudes that are saying, let's start a bank.
Yeah.
What must be going through your mind to be able to experience that? So, Ndate Musiwenyane, he's late, was one of the founders of Africanbank, together with a lot of other people. They initially first formed an organization called NAFCOC, which still exists up to today. And the story of Africanbank, the idea of Africanbank, because everything starts off in the mind.
Yeah.
The idea of Africanbank was in 1964. And it was at the inaugural NAFCOC conference in Soweto. And these businessmen and women got together to discuss the challenges they're facing as businesses. Challenges for growth, challenges for access to markets, and so many other things. And one of the key challenges that was really inhibiting their businesses was access to capital.
Sure.
So they decided that instead of complaining about this, why don't we just form our own bank?
Yeah.
So that we can...
As one does.
Yes. They don't want to lend money to us.
Yeah.
So let's form our own bank.
There's enough of us.
There's enough of us. In fact, there were 16 million Black South Africans.
Exactly.
And if we start our own bank, we could help ourselves as businesses, but also we could help our people.
Sure.
Because they need homes, they need cars, they need to send their kids to school. And we can be able to bring that to them. So Ndatase Motsonyane and Dr. Richard Maponya and a lot of others were the founders. So we renamed this building in honor of his legacy because we are nourished by the spirit of audacity that they had.
Yes.
And that's really what gives us, that gives us so much, I'll say, energy to really take that idea they had and say, this dream should never die, and we are going to continue to work to realize it.
So there's the building rename, but there's also a brand refresh, as it were. Take us through that thinking.
We just changed our logo, so we've got a new logo. We came up with a strategy the new strategy, and Africanbank has gone through lots of ups and downs. And it really was a fully fledged bank before it was curated. And unfortunately, the guys that the business was sold to stripped everything else and only left unsecured lending as a product offer. And then drove that very hard. And I guess it was at a time when we had, achieved independence and, there was an emerging black middle class and people were moving out of the township into townhouses. And people are buying homes and extending their homes and all sorts of stuff. Commercially, they saw the opportunity and they went for it. I think it was a mistake because the idea of Africanbank was to be a fully fledged bank.
Absolutely.
So when we launched our new strategy with the new, I would say, management team, it was really driven by our CEO. And was amongst the number of things within the strategy, one of it was to de-risk our balance sheet and diversify our business. So get back into business banking. Because this is why the bank was originally started.
I was going to say, you went back to the why.
So we went back to the why. Why we existed, why we started in the first place. And when you're expanding your business, you could either build it internally or you could buy it externally and come and plug it. So we bought Greenrod Bank and we brought Greenrod Bank into Africanbank, and we're still in the process of transitioning that business. We also brought in Ubank. So with the expansion and with the colleagues that came in from these businesses that bring, we're defining our culture, we're defining ourselves as, a new entity. And we felt it was necessary to come out with this new confidence, with this new stature that is rooted in where we're coming from, but very deliberate about where we're going.
Absolutely.
And you see that from the icon. We used to just have our seed that had 2 elements, and now this has 3 elements to really represent, business banking, to represent personal banking, and to also represent the customer. In this new refresh and this new confidence that we have.
Would you say this is Africanbank leading from the front in terms of saying we have the audacity to believe that we're going to live our own tagline?
Yeah. It's a very interesting question because marketing sometimes can be about coming up with fancy words. And audacity is a word that describes what this business is.
Yes, sir.
So it wasn't a briefcase term that no one else is using. Okay, we can own it. No, it's the sum of what this business is. The most banks don't survive a curatorship. Most banks don't survive a curatorship.
Yeah, often your curatorship is your way out.
That's like, Sambu, VBS, I think, and many more around the world. But that tenacity and that ability to bounce back from adversity, and going back to the 10 years it took them from 1964 to raise the money and meet all the conditions of the license to open up the bank.
All the hoops that were made to jump through.
You have no idea what the hoops were. I mean, some of them are crazy. Like, for example, the conditions were you couldn't employ any white people.
Yeah.
And so, okay, you've got a group of black people that are going to start a bank.
Yeah.
Where are they going to get the talent from?
Exactly.
Who's coming from banking that would have the skills,
African Bank was allowed to operate because it was meant to fail.
It was meant to fail.
Yeah.
Because they never thought it would start in the first place.
Yeah.
So all of that is really just audacity. So leading, I believe, it's not a matter of leading from the front, but lead from where you are.
Okay.
This is where we find ourselves.
Sure.
And we might not be in the front. We might not be in the back. Regardless of where we are, this is our story.
Yes.
And if that story inspires you, and if that story makes you believe, we're a bank that says, "Hey, we believe in you."
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't matter who you bank with, but if you're to consider a bank, consider one that believes in you.
Absolutely.
Which is us.
You also believe in the star power of Nomzamo Mbata. Let's go through that relationship. Let's talk about the advert. The advert is dope. The advert is now. Let's talk about that campaign.
I think it's a great campaign. Obviously, we're so involved in the campaign. So I'm really proud of what the team has been able to put together. So our journey of repositioning started with our initial campaign with Ricky Rick. So we're finishing off a documentary that we worked on with Ricky Rick and Latesa Matsonyane. I think his passing just put some brakes on some of that work. So that was the first time we reclaimed our heritage because nobody knows the story.
Sure.
And the question was, why? Why is it being suppressed?
Yeah.
How come it's not the case study that you learn about when you go to business schools?
Yes, sir.
How come it's not the case study that kids learn in university, in high school? I mean,
wasn't a part of our history.
Yes, we're often told that blacks can do nothing, have started nothing, have created nothing. But here's the evidence.
Yeah.
Right? Against all odds. So why is it not something that is really spoken about? So we had to reclaim that. Why? Because we want this story to inspire this nation.
Sure.
So we started with that journey and we started the communication. So with the new campaign with Nomzamo, we needed to communicate that we are now a fully fledged bank.
So we're back.
We're back. We're back in business. The African bank that you knew is no longer this business. This business is personal banking.
Yeah.
So I can bank you. Business banking, I can bank you. And we also have commercial banking. And we've got a rewards program. So there's a lot of
Did you guys win an award the other day in Dubai?
Yeah, well, I don't want to brag, but I think really the award is for our customers.
Sure.
Because it's our customers that really make us who we are. And with the over 80,000 customers that every month vote to make a choice to walk into our branches or open up accounts, they're choosing themselves.
Sure.
And they're choosing their financial well-being and their financial future above anything else. And we really appreciate that. And we've got we reached the milestone of 500,000 members of our rewards program.
Oh, wow.
Because it's something you opt in. We don't just put you there automatically.
Exactly.
You have to want it.
You want to be
You
there.
have to want
Yeah.
it, yes.
Yeah.
They're getting real benefits
Exactly.
from their day-to-day behavior. We're able to give them points. They can use those points for groceries, for vouchers, for airtime, for electricity, for so many things.
So the real points, you don't have to jump through any more hoops after that.
You get points,
Yeah.
and then you get points that matter.
Okay.
These ones are points that matter.
Absolutely.
It's not points where you have so many billions, but what do I do with them? You need to go there. No.
Yeah.
These are points that matter. So we won the award. So Nomzamo was there to communicate all of this.
Yes.
And continue on the communication of the bank and, a bank that really believes in its people.
Sure.
And we believe in the audacity of our people. There's so many people with ideas. There's so many people with great things they want to do. They just lack someone who believes in them.
Sure.
So you go to the cemetery, that's where you find all the ideas because they die with them. We can change that. We can say, hey, we will back you.
Sure.
Because we don't back the horse. We back the jockey.
Absolutely.
Because we understand that if you are committed, because you are committed to this podcast, you make sure that every single week you're going to create the content, you're going to post the content, you're going to market the content, you're going to make sure that the reach, the quality of the content. So we back you, the jockey.
And half the time, in fact, all the time, the horse doesn't even know it's in a race.
Exactly.
So you have to back the jockey.
You have to back the jockey because that's the person that
It's fully away.
stays up at night.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, in most businesses, it's the entrepreneurial spirit. So you find that, because it's your baby, it's your thing, it's your baby. So you're passionate about it and everything. So we did that. We do need to have influencers that are going to give us that take our communication to cut through the clutter. People are being bombarded with communication.
And with authenticity.
With authenticity.
Yes,
so in finding the right ambassador, we had to look at someone who represents what we represent.
Sure.
And when we could find those kind of like parallels, then we reached out and said, hey, we would like to work with you. But the relationship is not just one of we using your face. It's a commercial relationship.
Yes, sir.
So we've also signed what we call affiliate banking. So she'll be launching an account of her own.
That is dope.
So there's some commercial value. So in the States, it's that's how they do business. You have examples of big brands that collaborate, with other big brands in terms of individuals that collaborate with big brands. And, they're able to create, a revenue stream for themselves.
Sure.
As, in the ad, when we say, when you grow, we grow, we mean it.
Sure.
So if Nomzamo grows, it means that we are also growing.
I'd even go as far as saying, why don't you have a Nomzamo pay-as-you-go Visa card?
So she's got a entity that we already started working on the I would say the value proposition of her account, and it will be backed by Africanbank.
Sure.
But you'll be able to open up an account. Although it is really skewed towards females, and some of the I would say the services that she's been speaking about have got to do with things that mostly affect female, like gender-based violence, a call center where you can get help, panic buttons if you're in trouble, and all sorts of things. But isn't it a great thing that we could work with an influencer, with the brand, and say, how about we create an account
Sure.
That's your account, backed by African Bank. Sure. These are not just discussions we want to only reserve for big corporates that need to have, kind of like a financial services solution. We're saying we can also do it. We can also test the waters. And I think it speaks to how open-minded we are as a bank.
Banking with a purpose.
Yes.
Love it.
It starts there.
Brother man, we are out of time.
Already?
Yeah, I think we're already 15 minutes over. That lady there that's looking at me with daggers in her eyes is saying we're already 15 minutes over the time. So, okay. Oh yeah, if you don't say it, it didn't happen.
Listen, in marketing, there's a term we always like to use when we need to go over budget. We say forgiveness is better than permission.
Absolutely. I'd rather say I'm sorry than say, Mama, may I?
Yeah.
Okay, Mom, we're almost done, I promise. Minding Your Means. Where do we find that book?
Unfortunately, it's sold out.
Oh, goodness.
It's sold out, but I'm considering updating it and doing a rerun.
I think do a rerun, do an audio book. I'll voice it for you for free.
Okay.
So that we also have the audio version.
Yeah.
Some people are too lazy to read.
Yeah,
Let's not give people reasons
just
not to read.
Especially the youngsters, they just want to put their AirPods and off they go. So I'm definitely that's something I'm working on.
And what's next for the bank, like in the near future?
We've got a lot of things that we need to do. We need to develop home loans. We need to develop car finance. We're looking at, kind of like solutions and propositions for the different market segments. We've got a solution for, I'd say, first jobbers that, we'll be bringing into the market quite soon. Business banking will be launching as well, our business banking transaction account.
Sure.
And, that's really going to give quite a lot of businesses access to, a bank that you can open up an account and do your day-to-day transaction as a business, but also get access to credit, which is what a lot of businesses need. They need, but besides the day-to-day account and the credit, the solution is to support you with other services, like doing your VAT returns, doing your tax returns. So it's almost like, how do we package all these services in a box so that when you bank with us, we're able to take all that admin and just so that you can focus on what you do? Because, this is what you love doing.
Sure.
And the background,
let us do the rest.
Someone else must do that for you. So that's how we want to position it.
Great stuff. Brother man, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you
in
for
your lovely building.
Thank you so much.
I'm certain the good doctor is smiling upon all of you.
I know that one of the things that he often said was that for him, it has always been his wish that we take this bank back to its rightful owners, which is for the people. So that's why we are saying we're a black bank.
Sure.
Unapologetically. And we are a bank for the people.
Sure.
It's managed by the people, and it should be owned by the people.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the big marketing boss man at African Bank, hanging out with Sbusiso Kumalo. This is this week's edition of Fresh Money, brought to you by African Bank. Audacity to believe.
This is...
Wow! What a week.